The following program was made possible thanks to the generous support of our Kickstarter backers.
Well, first Holmes was born, then he got fat, bald, and tired.
Sup, Holmes?
Beware! Your host, Jonathan Holmes!
Holy smokes, I can't believe it. A special Thursday, late night, kind of late night, it's 5 instead of 4. Sup, Holmes, with Vice President of Production.
Whoa.
Is this all true? Am I saying the right things?
You are. Yeah, no. That is
Vice
not
President of
incorrect.
Production for Disney Interactive, John Vignocchi? Is that how you pronounce
Vignocchi, huh?
it? John Vignocchi.
We should get Charles Martinet to say that, right?
You should. I was in a video with him and I swore because I was so excited. And he was like, "You can never air that video." We bleeped it out of respect.
Did you?
To Charles, because he seems like a heck of a guy. John, you're a heck of a guy. VP,
Sup, Holmes?
How does one become VP of production at Disney Interactive? What can you give us a little bit, a brief background on your course, your career course? Because so many people are going to want to be you, or already do.
Yeah, a brief background. Well, it's tough because I've been in the game industry for 2 decades now.
What?
So,
since you were 3 years old, sir?
No, but I definitely it starts in my early teens, actually, when I'm like 11 or 12 years old. I actually was a part of a small gaming group on America Online that was called Enigma Gaming, which I eventually would become president of. And we wrote FAQ guides, or what would become FAQ guides. We really didn't know kind of what they were at the time. But they were like, just guides on, how to do all the fatalities in Mortal Kombat and, what all the secret characters were in NBA Jam and, strategy to beat whatever the latest games were that were out both on console and in the arcade. I had the advantage. So I was born and raised in Chicagoland, a small suburb on the North Shore called Lake Forest. And in Chicago was Midway Games, which of course was like the Rockstar Games of the 90s, and so they were putting out games all the time on test. And so I would go out there and I would be, interviewing people that were playing the games, and then eventually, would like figure out all the different strategies. And then myself, and I think at one point that kind of blew up over time. I mean, basically we had a message board. We were on message boards on America Online, the video games forum. Then we had our own message board. Then we had our own forum at one point. Then we expanded to the web and became a content affiliate site of IGN, like way back in the day.
Wow.
So I met guys like Per Schneider and, like super old school journalists now and that, have been around forever when I was in my teens. And but all the different stuff that I had done there actually led to me meeting a whole bunch of different people at Midway Games in Chicago over time. And then I was offered an internship there, finished school, and went full time at Midway. So it's
what were you doing at Midway at that time?
So when I started, basically I was like a total kid off the street. I called a guy by the name of Mark Turmel, who is the original creator of NBA Jam and NFL Blitz and Smash TV. I called him 26 times on the phone, not like in a row, but like over the course of 2 weeks to get just to talk to him about maybe doing an internship there. And he knew of me because over the years I talked to him like, hey, what is so-and-so's initials and birthday in order to play as them inside of the game. And so we kind of knew each other, at least by the phone, but never knew each other in person. Anyway, I'll never forget one day someone called me on the phone from Midway and said, "Hey, I would like to bring you down for an interview. Understand that you're interested in making games. So yeah, we'll bring you down for an interview." And so I went down for an interview and I was like in like a little coat and tie and absolutely zero experience other than, just being a huge video game fan, having this small little website. Like I was a assistant manager at an arcade in Northbrook, Illinois called Super Just Games. But that was like all I had. I was not a programmer, not an artist. And so I'll never forget, this guy brought me in, he sat me down and, he's like, "What type of skills do you have? What type of qualifications?" And, I had none. And so he took my resume and ripped it up in front of me. And he said, "Well, Mark Turmel wants you to work here, and what Mark wants, Mark gets. So I guess you're hired and you'll be reporting to me." but I have no idea what I'm going to do with you because you're not like a programmer or an artist. And at the time, this is like 1998. There's really no such thing in the game industry as a producer or a producer function. You're either an artist or you're a programmer or you're an animator, that kind of thing. But there's no like, oh yeah, and this is the guy that kind of everyone dumps all the keeping a schedule on things. Sorry, HR is walking by. Keeping a schedule on things, and also just kind of doing different stuff. So when I started, everyone was like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "Well, I guess I'm an assistant producer." And they're like, "Okay," and they were like, "Assistant producer to what? Like the janitor?" Like laughing, and I remember people were high five. Like that was a real line. People were laughing, high fiving each other, like when they said that. And then just over time, I kind of worked my way up at Midway, and I met a whole bunch of different people, like Ed Boon, Sal DeVita, Eugene Jarvis, of course the Nicastros who ran Midway. And it was funny because when I was at Midway, when I was pretty young, I just they put me in this production position, and then they promoted me to associate producer. Then Mark had said, the most powerful people in the game industry are dual mage spec. He's like, I'm a programmer, but I'm also a designer. And Sal DeVita is an artist, but he's also a producer type too, and a designer, of course. So Mark had recommended that I start heading into game design, which I did. And so I started working on design on like the NBA Ballers games. And then after that, I almost taking a page a little bit from like Clint Eastwood, started off in one thing, kind of changed it into a whole bunch of different things. I wanted to know more about why the company was greenlighting the games that it was greenlighting. I wanted to know more about, after we get it submitted to first party, the manufacturing and the retail distribution process. And then I wanted to know more about the finance side of it, kind of on the back end. How much did this cost to press and manufacture, and how much does packaging cost, and why do we greenlight the marketing budgets that we do on the marketing side of the fence? And so I started getting more into product strategy, and then I guess anyway. Sorry, I've been going on and on about my history. It's kind of, everyone has that sort of like, how'd you start in the game industry? And for me, it's always been about passion for video games and for industry. And it's just been about like wanting to be here, and more than anything else in the entire world. And then just that curiosity of like, what can I do to be better, stronger, and more of an asset to the people that I work with. And that's why I would always, Mark was the one who told me, always diversify. And it was cool. I met, there was another person who was a huge part of my career at Midway by the name of George Gomez, who created Spy Hunter and the original Tron arcade. And hi, kitty. And no, that's a perfect cat. Let me see your cat. Sorry, I also have ADD. Anyway, yeah. So George was a big part of my career at Midway, and like a great guy. It taught me a lot about game design and kind of game production too. So. Anyway, that was kind of my Midway years at the beginning of my career. So it was like 98 till right around 2007, 2008. It's 10 years at Midway Chicago. Whew.
Wow, good grief. Is it too late for a Midway? One of the questions, a lot of people have been asking questions.
Sure.
We have like more questions we'll be able to get to, I'm sure. So you've got this history with Midway. Have you dreamed about a Midway Disney crossover? Have you dreamed about, that, because Midway, they did a crossover with DC, who is, I guess, Marvel, Disney / LucasArts competitor at this point, and it went pretty well. So, because
which one is that? You're talking about Mortal Kombat versus DC?
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
I could see, because
Midway Disney crossover. Well, so Warner Brothers owns all the rights to all that legacy Midway stuff. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
it's actually interesting. I think the way that it worked out, I think EA bought the rights to all the sports games, and Warner Brothers has the rights to like Gorf and all of those like super old school arcade games and pinball IP. And I remember when the company was going through bankruptcy and they were trying to find someone to sell to, there was this Excel document that had basically every IP that they had, that was a part of Midway. And remember that there was, Atari as well, that it was part of Midway. So, and Trade West. I mean, there's a whole bunch of IP in there that you'd be surprised was part of that whole Midway package. And now it's all at Warner Bros. Like Tubin, and I'm trying to think like, Satan's Hollow, and like I'm trying to think of more fun, obviously Defender, Robotron, all those games too, Spy Hunter. So yeah, it's I don't, unless we ever did a crossover with Warner Brothers, unfortunately, I don't think I'll be seeing those on the Disney side of the fence anytime soon.
Son of a gun. And you would know this better than me. So I'll ask. Disney, of course, has Marvel, LucasArts, and Disney's huge catalog of characters.
And Pixar.
And Pixar, yeah. Your competitors, I guess, I don't know if you look at it that way, but you've got Lego Dimensions. And I don't know if that's Warner Brothers, but I'm seeing
it is. Yeah, it's
I figured now that I'm thinking more about it, because you've got Batman there and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and stuff.
Right, but there's also a lot of IP that's not Warner Brothers that's in that.
Yeah, all right.
Ghostbusters is not Warner Brothers.
Right.
Simpsons is 20th Century Fox. Obviously, DC and the stuff from the Lego Movie is Warner Brothers. But yeah, it's interesting. They have a lot of different IP that's non-Warner Brothers inside of there.
Right. So you would have to do a crossover with Lego Dimensions, I would guess, to get a lot of access to the old Midway stuff if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's right. If we ever wanted to, or if we could ever convince anyone here to want to bring, I don't know, NBA Ballers, I guess that would be EA. But let's let me think. Like, what's a better one? Like, I guess Blitz the League.
Sure.
I think Warner Brothers does own, because I don't think that was part of the EA stuff. But yeah, I would have to convince Warner Brothers to do that. Right,
which I assume would be not so easy, even though the amount of money Blitz the League crossover can make you is countless.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's just Holmes, it doesn't seem to fit within the Disney brand portfolio, I don't think. Yeah, that Mortal Kombat crossover with the Incredibles. I know we're all looking for it. No, I don't think it'll happen.
But that said, I hidden in my lap.
Nice, you got a Yondu and an Iron Fist.
These are my two favorites.
Nice.
And, I was going to ask you, because I know you're an enthusiast. We've never met before, but I've followed up and done a little bit of back checking on you. Investigation. You are
my back is quite hairy
about video games and fun and fantasy and whatnot. These are not two likely characters. Iron Fist doing okay in the comics. I'm still reading his comics. Doesn't have a movie. Doesn't have a TV show. I think he's in Spider-Man Unlimited as like a side character.
Right.
He's on screen for like 20 minutes. He's a show stealer, but I don't think all the kids have got like Yondu backpacks right now. I want to be Yondu for Halloween. I want to kill people with a giant needle, Mom. Like that's not necessarily happening yet. Here they are. Did you have something to do with these guys getting their own figures?
Well, I'm part of the group that makes decisions about what characters we put in there. But those two characters in particular, when we integrated Marvel into the Infinity franchise last year, we were looking at Spider-Man and integrating Spider-Man characters. And so when we had talked to Marvel, they had said, Spider-Man animated series is actually really popular, and here are the most popular characters from that animated series, and Iron Fist was one of them. So that's how Iron Fist had made it in at their recommendation. The other thing that's also it's important to us, and I don't think a lot of people would think about this, but from a gameplay perspective, Iron Fist's moveset is super cool, right? In terms of his combat and what he can do. So we wanted to actually implement that character. So when you have basically, the property holder saying, this is the character that we'd recommend, and then, our development team saying, well, this character is going to make great gameplay. I mean, that makes a ton of sense. The other thing that we always factor into our decisions also is, what the fans and what the community wants. But since they didn't have any exposure into kind of what the planning was that was happening with Spider-Man and the Spider-Man franchise integration into Infinity, we decided just to use those two voices to make that decision. With respect to Yondu, we actually had a little bit of additional production bandwidth that we were able to dedicate to creating additional characters. So we were in, what time frame am I in? I think it's Infinity 1 had shipped. This is like August of 2013. We had been working on the Marvel stuff, but I think it was like, I want to say it's in like the June or July timeframe, or maybe a little bit before that. We basically see that we're going to have additional production resources that are going to be available to make more characters. And so we went to our different partners at Marvel as well as at Disney, and then said, okay, so we've got some bandwidth. What are some characters that you'd recommend? And so at the time, we hadn't planned on doing the villains of the Marvel playsets that we did. So immediately Marvel had said, look, Ronan, Green Goblin, and who am I forgetting? And Loki would be, would totally make a ton of sense to do because, we've got all the heroes. It's great to play as the villains. So we said, okay, cool. Put those into production. And we said, we've got room for another character. And they'd said, we think Yondu is going to be a breakout hit character from Guardians of the Galaxy. And so with that recommendation, we went after Yondu. So at the same time, we also greenlit Aladdin and Jasmine, which are two characters that came out kind of later in the development cycle. So a little bit of something for everyone. I mean, that's what's tough, Holmes, is that we've created something now where you have to support, and it's a privilege, don't get me wrong. Like, I make it sound like you have to support me, but you're supporting Disney fans, Pixar fans, Marvel fans, and now Star Wars fans. And so the overall size and scope of the development team and the amount of content that goes into Infinity is pretty epic. And it's funny too to if you talk to other game developers about it, especially ones that that have played the game and have kids, so they have exposure to the game, they can tell you like that thing is huge for a kids game, and I think it's actually become more of a kids and family game. I mean, we've got just as many adults playing now as we do kids, which is eye-opening and really cool. But yeah, it's massive in scale, and all those characters are forwards compatible to the next one. And so rolling forward all of that code and making sure all those characters are still compatible is a daunting task. But it's one that our guys at Avalanche, which is where I am right now, we're doing a bit of an offsite. Our guys at Avalanche are incredible. Lead programmer that's here by the name of Nate Robbins manages the check-ins that come from the 8 different development studios that all work simultaneously on the Infinity engine and creating content. And Nate Robbins and his team manage all of those Perforce check-ins that are coming in all the time. I have no idea how he does it, but he's truly genius.
I can only imagine what it's like to have the responsibility to cater to this audience and also to curate and care for this intellectual property goldmine / like golden noose. Like, if you get this wrong,
I know,
I'm gonna kill you.
I know, right? I mean, that was the big thing, especially with Star Wars. That was the big thing this year, is like, we've got to knock this out of the park. And so that's why we brought on the development studios that we did, and we took the development studios, what they were known for, their expertise, and had them lend that to Infinity. And I think that's part of the reason why the game has turned out as great as it has. Our Metacritic is in the mid-80s, which is awesome. It's the highest we've ever had. And people really seem to be digging the experience with the lightsaber combat that Ninja Theory worked on, as well as all the different driving and vehicle stuff that a studio called Studio Gobo worked on. And actually, those guys, before being Studio Gobo, were known as BlackRock, which did Split Second and Pure. They were actually a Disney internally owned studio, and then old executive management shut down the studio. And so as we were working on Infinity 1 and needed more people to help us create, so much content, we turned to those guys because we knew that they were great game developers, and said, hey, you guys just started a new company. Would you be interested in kind of being one of these external development studios that works with us? They said yes. So it's a lot of the guys that worked on, Split Second and Pure. They're doing all the different cool vehicle stuff that you see in Rise Against the Empire, and they did that entire playset too. So anyway, not to kind of like go on and on and on, but yeah, it is. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of responsibility, but I think we did an okay job this year. We can always do better, though.
How could you, though? I mean, that's great that you have that attitude. I don't want to take that away from you, but you've got Ninja Theory, who has designed some of the best sword combat, and Heavenly Sword, and and whatnot in games. People love their games. They did one of the Devil May Cries too, so they're people are after them for that. Split Second and Pure, people loved those games. Sorry to hear that they were almost shut down, but you kept them alive. And now they're doing vehicles.
No, they were shut down.
They were shut down, but now they're doing
but,
stuff. I mean, the
yeah,
people
they're
anyway.
Yeah. They're a bunch of those guys are back, but actually it ended up being, I think for a few of them ended up being okay, because a few of the guys that aren't at Gobo went on to do what is it? I think it's CSR Racing. It's like the mobile racer where you tap to like rev that like made, I forget what it's called, but it made like Googled like tons and tons of money.
Sure.
So it's kind of like total divine intervention, at least for those 4 guys or whatever that worked on it. So yeah, it's those guys are great.
So these guys are great. Where would you even go from here? I'm sure that you're planning this all the time, and I don't expect you to give anything away in terms of future plans, but I can't help but imagine. I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. You've got such a history with games. I'm sure you've played classic Disney games like the ones run by Capcom, DuckTales. DuckTales remastered. The guy who directed that, Austin Ivensmith, was on the show just this past Sunday. And I was thinking, yeah, he was. He's a Disney friend as well. He did the voice acting direction for June Foray, and they got the whole cast from the old DuckTales show back on.
So I myself and so when I started at Disney in 2009, Adam Boyes, some guys I used to work with at Midway. So it was Adam Boyes, Craig Kuyava, and then Christian Svensson. Were all at Capcom, and they were like, we don't really have a contact at Disney. We've never had one at Disney. Can you introduce us to the right people, and can we get a deal done to do that DuckTales HD remix? And so it was actually, to get that deal done prior to the selecting of the developer and everything, that ended up like, Midway kind of falling apart, Adam going over to Capcom, and then me going over to Disney ended up being that bridge to create that deal to get that done between Disney and Capcom.
Whoa.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Small world. Yeah. It's actually a giant world, but
Well, the video game industry is super small, right? Yeah.
Christian Svensson, I wonder what he's up to now. But anyway, got to get focused on you again. So where would you, like, in just spitballing for funsies? You're not committing
with Infinity stuff?
Yeah, like in terms of other developers, would you imagine like integrating just 2D platforming like DuckTales again for a DuckTales level? There's no DuckTales characters in Infinity yet, is there?
No, there's not yet.
Yeah. So what I'm imagining from your perspective is this the franchise that started off with Disney characters has now expanded to appeal to a demographic that like contains almost all people. Like in the United States anyway. Like if you grew up watching Star Wars, it's now like the premier Star Wars game with combat by Ninja Theory and vehicle stuff by these. So it's like for everybody now. So does that open up the possibilities to do like anything, or does that make it even more strict in terms of you have to keep it narrow in order to like keep this good thing going? You can't take as many risks.
What do you mean, like in terms of like IP that we would select, or mechanic? Or
all of them, I suppose. Yeah. Like, and now that you're where you're at with this, this huge, you were like, I want to bring back Oswald the Lucky Rabbit from like how Warren Spector did with. Are you in a position to take those kinds of risks, or do you feel like you still need to kind of, I don't know, stay selective in terms of where you go from here?
I think that it's all on a case by case basis. Mm-hmm. So when we're doing a lot of this right now, actually, so first of all, where do you go? Everyone's always like, where would you go? Star Wars is there. I guess you're kind of done with Infinity, right? And it's like, oh, okay. That's actually someone who said that to me recently is a competitor who I will not name. But I was like, are you out of your mind? Because
stay playing, isn't it?
Yeah, no. It's a competitor in the Toys to Life space who's basically like, oh, you should give me the IP now because you guys are done with you've already done everything, right? And it's like, and it's the case in point is go and look at the slate of films and the slate of new television shows and and animated shows and everything that's going on. I mean, Lucasfilm has announced their slate, right? They've announced that they're doing more Star Wars films. They're doing Star Wars spin-off films. Marvel has shown their slate as well, which goes through 2018 or something, right? And these are all things that you can Google and see. Like if you search for Star Wars film timeline and stuff like that, you'll see this in Google Images. Disney, obviously, there's Disney live action. So there's the guys who just got done doing Cinderella. There's a new Jungle Book film coming out. And they've got lots of great new movies coming out. There's Disney Animation Studios, the guys that did Frozen. They've got a great new film called Zootopia coming out. We're putting characters and content into infinity for that. Of course, Pixar, right, just finished Inside Out, and we integrated that as a play set, and they're a huge animation studio, continues to pump out great content. And then there's like Disney Channel, Disney XD, ABC Family, and then let's not forget Disney's entire back catalog, the treasure chest of IP that you have access to. So it really kind of comes down to, okay, what's going to be a lot of fun from a gameplay perspective? What's going to be really popular and resonate with fans when it's released? And what's the community want, right? Because a lot of this too, we do absolutely have a responsibility to service our community. And in fact, we just did something in August called the Toy Box Summit. So inside of Infinity, there's this toy box mode, and you can build and kind of create anything using your imagination. It's like Minecraft meets Disney. And so we do a web show called Toy Box TV that I'm a co-host of. And we're like, hey, Maleficent's out in theaters. So this week we want to do a challenge for everyone. Create a toy box themed to Sleeping Beauty or themed to Maleficent. And we challenge our community. They go off, they work on toy boxes that they design, they submit them to us. And then, we review them and then rank them as the top 5. So, going full circle back to where I'm trying to get here is that this year when we did the Toy Box Summit, we flew the top 20 artists from around the world to Disneyland in Anaheim, put them up at the Grand Californian Hotel, let them play 3.0, let them play with the new tools. But also we said, as part of our commitment to you guys, as part of our commitment to our fans of Infinity, our Infiniteers as we call them, and to these toy box master artists who have spent hundreds of hours building and submitting these toy boxes and making incredible user-generated content, we said, you get to choose one character. It doesn't matter who it is, but we are locking the door. No one's leaving for 3 hours, and we are going to choose one character that will be the master toy box artist choice. And so it was totally open, and we just went through, and you have to think about, like, from my perspective, it's like, these are the ambassadors of our community. And so chances are the choice that they end up making is going to be the one that the rest of our fans and hardcore Disney fans and hardcore Infinity fans are going to say, yeah, we're really, really happy with that. So after all the voting had gotten done, it was down to 2, which was Darkwing Duck, which was my personal choice, my personal favorite. All that Disney Afternoon stuff is incredible. And Peter Pan. And Peter Pan ended up winning the day. So, to your point of like, do you, or I guess where I was trying to go is, you always do contemporary stuff, or sometimes you do classic stuff? And the answer is, of course, sometimes we do classic stuff, but we try to do things with purpose. And in the choice of Peter Pan, that was because that's what the Toy Box Master Artists had chosen. We integrated Mulan into the game this year because we wanted another kick-butt, powerful female. And so she's the latest princess we integrated. Last year we put Merida in, and Stitch, also fan-voted favorites, and Minnie Mouse. Everyone's like, you've got Mickey Mouse in the game, you don't have Minnie, you guys are out of your mind. You're like, yeah, you're right. So we did that too. So it's crazy. I mean, when you look at just everything you have to choose from, that's where it's like, it's a lot of fun. And you also have to understand that the most incredible storytellers in the world that are putting together these films or these animated series or what have you, are always creating new IP, new content. Alex Hirsch is the creator of Gravity Falls, which is this incredibly popular animated series on Disney Channel right now. Dan and Swampy, who did Phineas and Ferb, they're off working on something new. So, I mean, you've got, so now and then you've got the video game guys going, okay, from a video game interactive perspective, I've got to figure out a way to support all these different guys. and support the content that they're creating and the new content they're creating. So whether it's classic or it's current or it's future stuff, I mean, we're kind of doing a mix of everything and trying to keep everyone happy at the same time, which is tough.
Yeah, to say the least. But congratulations on doing it. 3.0.
Yeah,
You've done it, and it sounds like you're not ready to rest on that, and you're gonna keep trying to push yourself. But to dial it back a little bit, a question I've had: the style of Disney Infinity.
Mm-hmm.
I actually studied a little bit of character design back in college, and to be able to decide upon a style that will work for Mulan and Guardians of the Galaxy and Wolverine. It's like I've watched character design in video games evolve. It was actually the old Traveler's Tales Lego games that I was like, they're embracing abstraction for these live action characters. The first Traveler's Tales games were Star Wars, which you now are running. And I was like, they're cool with like shying away from realism, because it was this huge push for realism that you were a part of at Midway like pioneered a lot of what NBA Jam, like actual basketball.
Real, yeah.
But for Infinity, you've gone with this style that expresses like, this looks just like Michael Rooker to me. Like, you nailed it. I know. So congratulations. But was there ever a thought that you would go with like something more realistic that would appeal more to fans of whatever that is, or less realistic and have it be even more abstract along the Lego? Or is it always like, how was that whole process of deciding on the look?
It's that's a great question, and part of why I need to convince someone, I don't know who, but a publisher, to let us do an Art of Infinity book, because the actual exploration that the team had gone through to get to our visual aesthetic was pretty epic, and took a lot of time. So there are actually, in some cases, like Jeff Bunker, who's our VP, who just walked in. Hey, Jeff. I was just talking about you.
Hello. Hi, Jeff.
When Jeff talks about what they did from a character design perspective, and why they did what they did, it had to be able to work for animation and live action characters, and they spent a whole bunch of time. And if you look at interviews that he's done online, like if you search for Jeff Bunker Disney Infinity, there are interviews that he's done where they've provided some of the early concept art, and you can actually see explorations that we had done with different types of art styles. So not only did we have our own people at Avalanche Software, the creators of Disney Infinity, not only did we have them and our incredible art team here work on exploration, we had people at Pixar, we had people at Disney Animation Studios. We also had external artists, and some of this stuff you can actually find on their portfolios online at different like art blog sites. And so it's incredible when you start if you actually stitch together all of those things, you can see this really wide exploration of what is the Disney Infinity aesthetic going to be, and why should it be that way. And there's actually a big part of the reason why with the first version, we integrated Pirates of the Caribbean and Lone Ranger, because at the time we were really concerned about us not being able to show to the Walt Disney Studios, the live action film studio, that their live action films could be integrated into Infinity. We were worried at one point because we'd been working closely with Pixar, and Pixar was really happy with the direction that we were going. We had worked with Disney Animation Studios; they felt the same way. But Walt Disney Studios, was like, well, how do you, take Jack Sparrow and what we now call infinitize him, make him like that. And so that was a big part of the reason why we integrated Pirates and Lone Ranger, was to actually show that this art style was capable of doing anything from classic animation, 2D classic animation, to contemporary 3D animation, to humanoid live action, and still translate and work like they all feel like they're part of the same family. So
yeah, it was actually funny you would mention that. It was the design of Tonto that sold me on Disney Infinity, just in terms of like something I wanted to play just so I could look at it. And I didn't even see the light. Yeah, I was at E3, and I was like, I heard Disney's doing a new thing. I always checked out the Disney's. I'm a big Tron fan, so I would always go to Disney to check out the Tron, Tron stuff. And you've got so much Tron stuff, even though the last Tron film I hope it did well enough, but it wasn't like as huge as Pirates. You're still supporting so many of the Tron characters in Infinity.
Totally.
So
Yeah,
thank you for that.
totally. And yeah, it's like it's. I think you and me and other Tron fans are gonna really appreciate the ability to still play with those characters, and it's such a fun franchise and such a great world, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, sorry, keep going.
Oh, I was rambling on about how
Yeah,
I was
me
sold
too.
on sold on how well.
That's
I
what
mean,
we're talking about.
yeah, it felt like Johnny Depp with while somehow fitting in with the Incredibles and all the other stuff. And I was taken aback.
He actually does. He personally approves all of his Infinity designs.
Really?
Yeah. So
Huh.
that's been another part of this whole business that's fun. Is that, I mean, people don't realize you're making a game, but then you're also making a toy line. And, you know, when I started here at Disney 5 years ago, myself and none of the guys here at Avalanche knew anything about making toys, or interactive game pieces, as we call them. And you know, it took. If you can, you know, we're gonna have over 100 playable characters inside of Infinity 3.0 by the time we're done with this thing. And those are all, you know, from Disney, Marvel, Pixar, and Star Wars. Plus, that is also 100 of those figures. And you know, it's not just that you're making a game; you're also making a huge toy line that goes with it. It's just it's massive. I mean, I have a friend named Chris Charler who works at Microsoft, and he was like, "How does it feel when you walk into Walmart and see that your game has more space dedicated than Nintendo?"
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, I don't really look at it that way, but when you say it that way, like, well, that's kind of interesting. But it's massive. This business is huge.
Oh, sure. When I bought these, actually, quick story. I went to the video game section and I was looking all over the place for the Disney Infinity stuff. And there's like, here's the Amiibos, here's the Lego Dimensions. I was like, cool, but where's Disney Infinity? And they're like, oh, you need this aisle. And it was like, it was actually a whole other section of the Toys R Us that they had to dedicate because you have put out so much.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's fun, right? And this is not, you know, some character that you haven't heard of. And these are popular, fun characters.
Yeah, which brings us to 3.0 and the huge integration of Star Wars, specifically the stuff I wanted to ask you about to make sure that there's so much stuff I want to ask you, but I wanted to make sure to ask you about integrating Star Wars: A New Hope and what it was like to that movie. You mess with that movie and they will get you. Like
they will.
George Lucas changes the color of Darth Vader's lightsaber, and that's slightly, and people are like ready to kill. So you had to take A New Hope, and you made quite a few changes to it. If I'm
episodes 4, 5, and 6. The thing is, so we worked really closely. There's a group at Lucasfilm. It's their story continuity, their story franchise team. Any hardcore Star Wars fans know of this team because they were the ones that went through and said, these events are canon, these events are not canon, leading up to JJ's new film. And we actually worked with that group to define where all of the events across Infinity's representation of Star Wars and the entire saga were all going to take place according to this timeline. And so they had said to us, to your point, you know, episodes 4, 5, and 6 are untouchable. The events and the things that happened there are true and totally untouchable. And we said, okay, that's fine. You know, in our fiction, much like, you know, the original Toys to Life property, Toy Story, these are the toy versions of the characters, not the characters themselves. So we're able to kind of break the fiction a little bit in that, you know, it's really someone playing with these toys as opposed to these things, you know, really happening. And so we had told them our big challenge is that we want people to be able to play with Luke or Leia, you know, right out of the box. And of course, in the beginning of A New Hope, you know, Leia is not on Tatooine. So can you help us develop a narrative that's going to be fun and stick close enough to the canon for gamer dads? They'd be like, this is cool. And then also be really entertaining for gamer dads and gamer moms, I should say. And also entertaining for kids to be able to get an understanding of, you know, what happened in episode 4. And also, you know, we've got events from 5 and 6. So we worked really closely with that team. And you know what? The other day I just read a review of the playset, and it was clearly written by a hardcore Star Wars fan. And I read the entire thing, and I was just shaking my head because I was thinking to myself, here's an example of like a super hardcore gamer being upset that like this kids and family game didn't hit their expectation of what Star Wars, the classic trilogy was supposed to be. And so I almost registered and then was going to write in the comments like, hey, hater, go play Battlefront if you want like a total, like true to exact canon representation of 4, 5, and 6, like whatever. I guess you can't win them all. But yeah, we worked really, really closely with that story franchise team to make sure that everyone was happy with the way that the story turned out.
Yeah. That's what happens though. Like George Lucas will write a new Star Wars story and be like, "You got it wrong. I know Star Wars better than you." So that comes with the territory. If you didn't do something that inspired those kinds of emotions, then you might not have done anything interesting at all. So I commend you personally.
Oh, thanks, man.
Our questions popped up. I don't know how much more time you have.
I was told I'm doing this from I think of another half hour or so. I mean,
all right.
Yeah,
we'll talk to you until you decide to leave. So you just let me know. Also, before I get to those questions, we've got a few.
Okay. Now I see. I just pulled up the group chat there.
And if it's okay for continuity's purpose, I will read them aloud to you as though I'm embodying the
totally
person. That'll be fun. But before we do that, I did, and tell me if this is off limits. We didn't talk about it beforehand, but the most of the talk in the Toys to Life space these days, other than just like these games are good, is focused around Nintendo entering it with Amiibo. They're doing a crossover with Skylanders. They have a couple of Skylanders Amiibo, but people often talk about Amiibo because they're so frustrated that they're in such short supply. Is that something that you guys have run into? Do you understand why these supply issues might be happening for another company? I totally get why you wouldn't want to speak to that, but I haven't seen it. I mean, these aren't like the most popular characters, but I didn't have to like charge, I didn't have to pay $100 for a Yondu on eBay because he was like in short supply. I found him on the shelf. He's the only one left. But anyway, the whole shortage thing, is that faced you, and the whole Amiibo craze thing, does that make sense to you?
I don't know much about the Amiibo stuff because I haven't been following it very, very closely lately. I know that there was like, I did a podcast with Game Informer where I got asked the question similar, and I just said, about, hey, what are you guys going to do about supply? And what I said there, and I'll say again to you, is that it is not our strategy to try to create, artificial limitation to get the, to create that demand for people to run around and go crazy, because ultimately you're frustrating your fans. Now, I said that, and then a bunch of people said, Disney VP slams Nintendo, claims that they created artificial demand. And I'm like, okay, no, actually, I didn't say that. I just said that that's not our strategy. That's why we actually work really, really hard to have people that are good at creating accurate forecasts for what the demand are going to be for all of our different figures. So we make sure that we have enough to service the fan and that they're in demand. And so, you know what, like, sure, absolutely, we've manufactured this year more Yodas than we have another character, because Yoda is one of the most popular Star Wars characters. But we've got guys that spend days and months going over that data, looking at that data, and then figuring out what we're supposed to be manufacturing for Infinity to hit that demand. So that's, to answer your question on our side, it's about having the right people there to create those forecasts.
Sure. And
it also, of course, helps that, Disney is a huge consumer products company as well, and works with, some of the largest manufacturers of figures, your Hasbros and Mattels and things like that. So there's also a ton of data that we have from over the years of actually manufacturing toys, where we understand, kind of the ebb and flow of the market and the seasonality of the market as well when it comes to the, action figures and things like that. So that kind of answer your question. That's how we look at it, and that's how we approach it. It really comes down to just having people that can create accurate forecasts, and
Sure.
we're lucky to have really, really great people at Disney that's their core competency.
Have you ever had a figure that sold out sooner than you figured, and it was like became scarce, and that felt
So
like a surprise?
Violet was one of them from The Incredibles, which was
really
surprising. Yeah, Violet and Syndrome, both of those two characters from The Incredibles, moved, and actually Dash too, moved much quicker than we had expected. Their popularity was a lot higher than we expected. And so those were characters that, you know, we had to meet the demand for. But there's lots of things that you can do. You know, if you've got and I'm not the expert in this by any stretch of the imagination. There's people much smarter on my team that do this. But you can, you know, ship via air these figures to get them into retailers' hands, to get them into your fans' hands. And we've definitely done that before. And that's no secret. I mean, I'm sure Activision's done that. I'm sure, you know, other big contemporary toy manufacturers have done that as well. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Not everything has to go on the boat, so to speak, and take that 3 months of shipping to get across the ocean. You can air freight stuff too if you want to meet your consumers' demands. And we've done it.
Right, and that costs more, I'd imagine.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it eats into your margins, but at the same time, you know, do you want to make your fans upset, or do you, you know, is it really about making as much money as you possibly can?
Well, I think some people would say it is.
It is about making as much as you can.
But for you, with your enthusiast background, I mean, at whatever age you were, knocking on the door at Midway and calling that guy 26 times, I don't think, it doesn't sound like you were thinking, well, this is going to make me as rich as if I just got on Wall Street, or if I became, you know, the business side, which you're obviously skilled at, came secondary to how can I channel this passion in a different direction? Because I've tried all these different directions.
I had no desire to do anything other than make video games my entire life. I went to a grade school reunion where we dug up a time capsule, and everyone looked at the head, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? And people got to draw things. And I drew a level from Super Mario. And it said, I want to make the next Mario game. This is second grade, right? And of course it's like, it's terrible. But yeah, my entire life, all I've ever really wanted to do was be able to work in the game industry. And I think for myself, and I think for a lot of people too, it's also about, you know, making something that people care about. And I did an interview with Jeff Gerstmann at Giant Bomb a few weeks ago, and he's like, dude, are you going to slow down anytime soon? Like, I see you traveling so much, and I see you just everywhere. And I'm like, for myself and for other people on the team, it's like, we've got something right now, right? We're in a moment right now. It's just like push as hard as we possibly can. And you know, I get it. Like, you know, when you have your foot in the future all the time, sometimes you really should go back and look at the past to be happy with what you've done. But for right now, it's about like, go, 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 go. Because my entire life, my entire career in games, I've wanted to make something that people really care about. And with Infinity, I feel like I have. I know other members of the team that I work on feel the same way too. And so that's why all of us are just running as fast as we can to keep making great content and try to keep our fans happy. Hi, John Blackburn. John Blackburn just walked up to I'm in like one of these fishbowl offices. He just walked up and rubbed his nipple at me. Like, I see you. Anyway, yeah, we also have a really funny team too. We're a total clown show. Have a lot of fun together.
So growing up loving video games, this is probably one you can't fully answer. I'll try to be even more vague about it. Have you ever thought about, because Skylanders, that was a video game franchise anyway, but it is crossing over with Nintendo. Not only are the amiibos crossing over in toy form, but the characters are in the game. Have you thought about, because that's like the one place you haven't totally gone yet, to other video games? You've got this huge catalog, which you're never going to run out of characters to mine from Disney, from Marvel, from LucasArts. But you haven't crossed over with other games. You know, I picture Master Chief looking awesome as a Disney Infinity character. Like, who wouldn't look good? Who was it? Kratos just showed up in Shovel Knight And that made me actually think like, I want a toy of Kratos. What would that end up looking like? It would end up looking like a Disney Infinity character. So
Yeah.
have you thought about that, or have you been approached? I know you can't get into details.
For sure we have. For sure we have. For sure we've talked about it. But the thing is that we have so much content that is as popular, if not more popular, than some of those characters that we could bring in. That should we make the Disney, Marvel, Pixar, or Lucasfilm fan, would they be more happy with us creating General Grievous or Lando Calrissian than Master Chief?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you have to imagine, okay, if you put yourself in my shoes, okay, kid, so you finally made something that people really care about. You've done something that Marvel fans like, Disney fans like it, the Pixar guys like it. Now the Star Wars fans seem to like it. Okay, don't screw it up. Okay, now what are you going to do? Okay, I'm going to go and put random IPX in here, right? As opposed to expanding those rosters, for fans of those kind of umbrella brands. And so it's not to say that we would never. I just think that we have so much stuff at Disney right now that we can do that that it doesn't seem like grabbing an external IP and integrating it in right now is within our strategy, our near-term strategy.
Sure. And I know there's people at home being like, but I want Mario and Mickey Mouse to do a thing. And of course, everyone does. But for you,
I think I went on record saying that day is not far away. It's just it's the thing is that the right thing to do, or is it to do more characters from episode 7? Those are the things that go through our heads and we talk about all the time. And we've talked about to the very, 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 very highest echelons in the company about what is the correct strategy. And there's other partners in the Toys to Life space whose strategy is to bring in all of that external IP. And so it'll be interesting to see how that works out for them.
Yeah. And they don't. I mean, the only one who comes close is Lego Dimensions. And even they don't really, this is me talking, not you, so you're not going to see a headline, Disney Man slams other IP because he's the best.
That's the weird thing, Holmes, by the way, is like it's gotten to the point now where I can't even have these casual conversations anymore because someone loves writing that crazy headline that's like, Disney VP says, and so I have to always be really careful about what I say because I hate those dumb headlines. Everyone hates those headlines, but yeah. Anyway, sorry. Keep going.
Yeah, no,
I wanted to tell you that, and for anyone listening, I wanted them to hear that too because it's not fun to be able to do stuff like this and talk passionately about your career and your craft. To have someone kind of cheaply rip off a one-liner you did to write something nasty, but I guess it's to be expected when you finally made it. When you finally made something great that people care about.
Absolutely, it comes with the territory that you are now somebody else's potential paycheck. Like what you said is how other people get paid, who you've never met, who may not care about you.
Right. I can't even believe that for a second. Right. Anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay. That's all right.
I want to take that moment to express frustration there because it drives me crazy sometimes. I normally reach out to people on Twitter too because inevitably they're on Twitter and I'll be like, hey,
Well, I'm glad that you do that because speaking from my perspective, I may write something that I think I'm being like an upstanding dude. Like I think I actually did hear you say that, you want to beat up everyone at Lego or whatever. So the guy wants to beat up Lego guys. And if you were to reach out to me anyway and say hey, that really took my words and twisted them. Can we talk about that? I would be the first one to be like, number one, correcting my story makes my story even more interesting because now it's turned into a narrative. So if I'm being a cold-hearted journalist, people are going to click on it again to find out that I screwed up. So then I write, I screwed up. Actually, this is what he meant. Twice the clicks and actually being a decent human being, it works. But these questions, now I'm scared that somehow we're going to die before you. And I promised people I would ask them questions. So M-Wizard asks, in short, I'll abbreviate it. Are you considering figures that can articulate a little bit more? Iron Fist here. He's got seams for his arms, but I have to imagine it's more expensive to make it so those seams connect to sockets that are going to be durable and not fall apart, like my friggin' swoop transformer. I'll never forget this. I'll never forgive Hasbro for this. My swoop transformer, Dinobot, his head fell off literally 10 seconds after I bought him when I was you guys would not do that. So I have to imagine that's part of why articulation hasn't happened to the degree it could yet.
No, so to be honest with you, we've certainly investigated it before. The thing is that we can't hit the level of quality that we're happy with when we do articulation. You instantly start losing some quality, and in order for us to get at that right price point, and then also hit the level of quality that we want, which is a beautiful figure that you can hold up and show people and might be proud to actually display on your desk. We've decided right now to just stick with them being kind of statuesque. We feel that it captures the personality of the character real well, and then also at the same time it keeps the quality real high. So that's why we do it the way we do, and we don't we certainly played around with it, but we don't have plans for articulation just yet.
As a fan, I'll tell you that when I want them to move, I play the game. And if I don't want them to move and just, that's me, I rather have them in like a perfect pose that speaks to their character all the time than like have to try to get their arms to stay just right the way I want it when it's on my desk.
Yeah.
Then they're going to fall over and then their arms might fall off and whatnot.
Yeah.
As long as I can keep these away from my dog, they're going to stay just as they are like forever. So,
and chances are the person, was it M Wizard? Was that the person's name?
That was Chem Wizard, yes.
Chem Wizard, yeah. So, I mean, chances are Chem Wizard probably has a son or daughter that's actually playing with them as toys.
Right.
And certainly there are a lot of people that do that. They play with them not only as toys on their living room floor, but also in the game. But most of the time you hear from the parent saying, "Hey, are you going to make them more action figure-esque?" And you hear, most of the core gamers or guys like you and me, right, saying, I kind of like them just the way they are. So
right.
We experiment.
Please everyone. Again, you'll eventually get to Disney Infinity 10.0, and then maybe everything ever will have happened. But for now,
your lips to God's ears, right? It's nice to have a job.
Well, that was the other thing I meant to get to before, and it's a sidebar comment, probably not necessary, but I'm already halfway there, so I have to finish now. You can only do so many things at once. This is what I always want to tell fans in defense of developers who I feel like I can at least somewhat relate with. You can't do all of the ideas this year. You have to prioritize which ones, and then hopefully you'll continue to have years and years and years to keep going. And it's happened. Mario's been around for 30 years. I can't see why Disney Infinity might not be as well. And over that time, you get to do all the ideas eventually, maybe, hopefully.
I mean, and like the great example of that, Holmes, is swimming. Like, we got so many fans that have been talking to us about integrating swimming mechanics into Infinity. And even while I'm out here, we have the argument back and forth. And typically, I'm representing to the rest of kind of the senior team as we're having these discussions what the fans and what the community is saying. And I'll tell you that right now, my team, and then also, I mean, just if you ask other game developers or even game fans, right, swimming is not that much fun. Right, in video games, not like I mean, I love swimming, right? Cannonball, hey, but in real life, but in games, I can't think of a game experience where swimming is really a ton of fun. Mm-hmm. We actually had, and I brought up, we had a member of our community by the name of Travis. He put together a video where he had said, if you guys can make swimming as fun as you've made flying, there might be something there. So we've been talking about that. I think most of it's actually coming from people wanting the Little Mermaid in the game, and then other kind of classic Disney characters that, are swimmers, Ursula and characters like that. So yeah, I mean, there's still core mechanics that we haven't yet attacked. And that's not to say that we won't, right? There's certainly, when an opportunity to integrate a great big new IP or film, that features mechanics like that, when it makes sense, then I think that's when we'll go in and kind of bite the bullet and get it done. And that's like the story with Star Wars, right? When we brought on Ninja Theory, we brought them on because we knew we had to make lightsaber combat totally kick butt. And the first version of Infinity, right, had characters with swords, and sword play. Who's to say that the sword play couldn't have been any different than what the lightsaber combat is now in 3.0? But that's not what we decided. To your point, that's not what we decided to invest resources in at that time, because really making sword play for Pirates of the Caribbean playset, the big standout thing, didn't make a lot of sense at that time. So actually, it's funny. That's Adam Boy is calling me right now.
Oh,
probably to yell at me.
I hope not. You've done an incredible job on the show. And we'll get to these other questions first, but I'm going to start with mine.
Sure.
My dream character to be added to Infinity at some point, and it's not completely out of the realm of possibility, I think, but you'll be able to speak to that. Studio Ghibli characters.
Sure.
Disney has a deal with them, I think.
Yes. I think it's a distribution deal. And
Yeah,
I definitely know
at least
that
from the
Studio
films.
Ghibli's very close to
And
amazing producers and directors are very close with John Lasseter and the team at Pixar.
Right. And My Neighbor Totoro, in Japan anyway,
Yeah.
no shortage of Totoro stuff out there. So just for a one-time Totoro, of course, I'd won Princess Mononoke and Porco Rosso and everybody. But that's my dream, and I'm just throwing it out there. I'm sure I'm not the first one to bring it up, but to.
So, the reality of that is, do you pass up on integrating the next Pixar film to do the Studio Ghibli film, or the next Star Wars? Or, basically, you've got a finite amount of stuff that you can get done. I'll take you through the process with me, right?
Sure.
You've got a finite amount of stuff that you can get done. Okay, what is it that we should do? And what fan are we speaking to by doing the Ghibli stuff? Not to say that we wouldn't, right? But it'd be a great thing is if there was a huge strategic initiative to get Infinity to be really big in Japan.
Right.
That was okay, so in order to do that, as part of fulfilling that strategic initiative, we definitely should go through and integrate these characters. But also then it's also about how are those characters going to play, and what are they going to do from a powers and abilities perspective to make them fun?
And Totoro sleeps great. Rides on a top. He's cute. You're right. It makes sense.
But hold on, I'm not saying that the answer is no.
Right.
But this is that same tone of disappointment you have right now. I have all the time, because I'm talking about Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. Can we do stuff from Tailspin? Can we do stuff from Gargoyles? These are that whole Disney afternoon. Those animated series are stuff that I grew up with.
Funny you should mention that. Buttered Pooper is a username. And a wonderful person, I'm sure, asked, what are the chances of seeing Gargoyles? Sounds like there's a chance it's not been ignored, but right place, right time, right mechanic, all that stuff.
Right, and it's actually fun. I had, and I'm a big fan of Gargoyles, I had a journalist by the name of Lucas Siegel just introduced me over email to Greg Weisman, who's one of the original creators of the show. And so, and actually something like that similar happened just recently too, with fans on Twitter connecting myself and Christy Carlson Romano, who voiced Kim Possible, because they want Kim Possible added to Infinity. And so I've, because Lucas was super cool to do that. I've had conversations with Greg, not confirming anything or saying anything's going to happen, but more like, what are the options right now? What are you doing with this? And what's, and trying to investigate around Disney and, and with Christy, we went out and she had dinner with myself and some other members of the team. And, we talked a lot about Kim and what how fans are really excited for more Kim content and how popular she is in certain international markets. And, always open to having that discussion, because fans have connected, us to these big celebrities. Right. So that's been a lot of fun and really interesting stuff. But, sometimes it's just that, I run into this, I get that same thing like you, I really want some Studio Ghibli stuff in here. And, or I really want some Disney afternoon stuff in here. I've been talking forever about wanting Captain EO.
Right? Incredible. That would.
Yeah, Captain EO, because I think even from a mechanics standpoint, right, a character that kind of could run around. He's got great vehicles. There's some fun lore there. You know, he can change robots into people and make people dance, and I can see that being a fun mechanic. You know, shooting rainbows at people and that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I'm with you. I go through that. We go through that stuff all the time, and I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised to see. Because it sounds like right now I keep on saying, like, you know, there's no classic stuff. It's all just contemporary stuff. Haha, I wrecked your dreams. But I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised when they start seeing some of the new character announcements that we will make in the future are going to speak to fans and all different types of fans.
Well, I'll address a few of those fans real quick, and you've more or less answered their question already to the degree that you can. But just so you know, Ursats wants to see Bambi figure.
Right.
Too, but I would buy a Bambi figure for sure. And just I'm a good person. The toy.
And with this, I mean, with Bambi, so I'll take you into this. You know, we have this conversation all the time as well. Bambi's a quadruped. So from an actual implementation standpoint, so one of the things about Infinity that I think that's a lot different than other Toys to Life games, but also, you know, other kind of kids and family games, the amount of core mechanics that a character can do inside of Infinity, meaning the types of things that a character can do, like walk, run, jump, double jump, ledge hang, side saddle, drive a car, ride on top of a car, ride on top of a car while holding a weapon, hold a weapon while running, walking, jumping, while on a ledge, holding another character, holding multiple characters as a totem. I mean, if you actually, and if there's any Infinity fans in the chat, they know how expressive the moveset is, like, and the standard moveset for a Disney Infinity character prior to us putting things on there, like, you know, Thor's hammer needs to be thrown and returned like a boomerang, and, you know, and Iron Man needs to be able to have 8-way directional flight and also fire repulsors, and also, you know, not only fly regular speed, but then pull his arms back to fly fast speed. When you start looking at all those things and looking at how expressive Infinity is from an actual character moveset perspective, it's not just 8 archetypes of characters and everyone kind of does the same thing. I mean, these characters are actually really diverse and feel very, very different. When you start talking then about quadrupeds,
it would need to be a separate. I mean, you've already packed in like 5 games at least worth of game in your game to then be like, and what's it like to be a deer? That's a whole other game. In fact, it is a game. It's called Dear God. It's not that bad. But
Goat Simulator.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe someday.
Right. But how is Bambi going to drive a car? And what's that going to look like? My favorite, so of course the character that always comes to my mind that people ask for all the time is Simba from The Lion King.
Oh, sure.
Which is fun because whenever we do polls asking people, what character would you like to see appear inside of Infinity? They always say The Lion King. So I extrapolate that to mean they're talking about Simba.
Sure.
But
or Mustafa, yeah.
Mufasa, yeah. Scar, right? And there's all these great characters. So anyway, when we start talking about that though, it's like, okay, so what is Simba going to look like? How's it going to work with him driving, you know, the golf cart from Gravity Falls, or when you get into real world situations, is what does Simba look like when he's riding Bullseye from Toy Story? Or weirder still is, you know, what's that like with Simba riding Raja from Aladdin? Right now you've got a lion riding a tiger, right? And it really sounds funny, but like, hey man, screw you. These are real problems that we have.
Yeah, they are. And it's just, I'm imagining this being my real problem and my real like playground. This is your real. Congratulations, John.
Yeah,
what an amazing life.
I'm really in a moment in time here. I mean, I came home one day and I was talking to my father on the phone. He's like, "You sound really stressed. Did you have a tough day?" And my father is a contractor. Right? He's a construction guy.
Sure.
And so I'm like, "Yeah, it was a really tough day, Dad." And he's like, "Well, what happened at work?" I'm like, "They spent an hour arguing about Dumbo," and he's like, "Oh, I see. The Disney guy spent an hour arguing about Dumbo," and he's like, "Oh, rough day at work. You know, if I don't go to work, bridges don't get built. People can't go to hospitals because I make hospitals." Like, oh, I'm like, come on, Dad. But yeah, it is my real job. Like, and that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it of course it seems trivial, but Dumbo emotionally affects millions of people. End of sentence. Period.
Actually, I'm gonna next time my father's making fun of me, I will say that to him.
It's absolutely true.
It's
You
true.
could make
Right.
someone you can have millions of people have a better day if you handle Dumbo right, and if you handle Dumbo in I don't want to like freak you out with how much effect you have on people's lives, because that can, maybe you're better off not thinking about it. But yes, you have this kind of power. What an incredible position you're in.
It's really cool too. Sorry, I don't mean to keep going on.
That's okay.
We've had people. We've done events. And we've had people come up to us. I remember one couple in particular, and I've cried multiple times, like in the bathroom at events because of stories people have told me. One in particular, it was really touching, was a couple came up to me, late 20s, married. Husband had just gotten back from Afghanistan, or was back from Afghanistan, has PTSD. And the only thing that they could really do together, and it would kind of keep him calm and allow them to share and create these interactive moments and these memories together, was infinity. And so they came up to me and talked to me for a while and just thanked me. And I remember coming back and writing a big email to the team and saying, it's what's really incredible is that a lot of people just kind of look at this as, hey, you're making a kids game or whatever. But when you're actually out there kind of in the front lines and talking to people, you realize that you're actually doing something that's impacting people's lives in a positive way. And I think that's been what's been truly rewarding. It's when I first started at Disney, I didn't know that it would ever lead to this. And as a game developer, you always want to make games that your friends would find really cool, but to be able to make something that makes families happy is really special. So sorry, a little tender moment there.
No, absolutely. Almost. I want to end on that moment if I didn't want to keep talking to you, because I want to do that too. I want to somehow have.
We can do questions too.
Yeah, we'll do a few. But before we do, I want to speak to the idea that yes, we didn't realize it maybe growing up, but video games are impacting us so hard, and they impact people even more intensely and deeply today than they did before. Because, like, no offense to Mario Brothers, I love Mario Brothers, but Disney Infinity can potentially and definitely, as you just described, do more for people. It can give them a place to be where they are safe, comforted, in control, and connecting with their family. That's no small thing. That's not trivial. That's thank goodness.
I mean, it's like I always thought what I really wanted to do was, make a that I would always look at when I was at Midway. I'd always look at Ed Boon and his team, working on Mortal Kombat. Like, if you really had it together, that was the team you'd be on. That was the best team possible at Midway. Made the coolest game out there. And my entire career, I've always wanted to go for finding that one thing that my friends would be like, oh yeah, my buddy works on this and it's super cool. And I would find it super rewarding because everyone thought it was the most, most killer cool game ever. And I'm actually okay that, and I know our team is too, okay that we make great games that families create memories together playing. And I think that's it's something special. I didn't think it was going to be this way when I started, but yeah, I'm okay with it now. It's pretty cool.
Awesome. I couldn't be happier for you. So a couple more just character questions. And you spoke to General Grievous a little bit already, but Hulkalan perhaps wants Grievous and Asajj Ventress. I don't blame him. I know a lot of people not as big a fan of the prequels. I like them a lot. I see the flaws, but I also see the incredible creativity there. Grievous is incredible visual design. Just love looking at him. Asajj Ventress from the Clone Wars spinoff, also awesome. I love the Genndy Tartakovsky, I can never say his name right, animated series. So those characters, what do you think? Could happen?
I think that I don't see why not. It's just it really is going to come down to what do fans really want? I mean, Grievous is definitely one that especially I think the way that he's implemented in the game in a big boss fight right now. It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
And from a mechanics perspective, that character would be a lot of fun to work on. So, but you know, he would be a really great one. But there is, again, like I go back to the whole, should we do Grievous right now? Or if you go and you look at that entire Star Wars film slate, is there going to be a breakout character from
Episode 7? Have you seen Episode 7?
I've read the entire script.
Whoa.
Yeah, it is. Let me tell you that it is the worst responsibility in the world to have read that and then not be able to talk to anyone about it. And I say that, and I did that, and I kind of did the deflated face, because I think the film that J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy are putting together for Star Wars fans is going to be absolutely incredible this holiday. I think people are going to just go bananas. And I'm no expert when it comes to reading scripts or anything like that, but when I was reading it, like it was about a year ago, I mean, several times I stood up and was like, hell yeah, like, pumping my fist with excitement, you know? Like, I can't think of the last time I read anything where I was really like that. So yeah, I've read the script, but it's such a burden, right? I mean, Star Wars in my family was like almost like religion, right? You know, I remember watching it with my father growing up, the classic trilogy, you know, and just, you know, being real little, and him holding me in his arms and being like, you know, this is why you will always be like a Jedi and not like a Sith, and, you know, good versus evil, and, you know, a father and his son, and forgiveness, and all of these things that are like instilled in me as a person. And not being able to share with him, like no, dude, you're not even going to believe how this thing goes forward. But you know, it's only a few short months now, and I hopefully will be able to. So,
got it masterfully handled. I am tempted to have like the headline for the rerun when I post this be like, man has read Star Wars 7 script, smiles. And people will click on it and be like, why did he smile? I need to see that.
You know, actually, you know, it's a really funny side story is, so we just had D23, which is like the ultimate Disney fan expo. It happened in Anaheim, and there was a whole bunch of Force Awakens announcements that were there, and things that happened there. And so I see you guys. I will be on in 1 second. Sorry. So there's a whole bunch of Force Awakens stuff that was happening there, and we made the announcement. Of course, we actually had already announced that The Force Awakens was coming to Infinity. In fact, it's the only The Force Awakens console gaming experience that's going to be out there, which is really fun, and also a huge responsibility. So anyway, we had decided that we were going to unveil 2 of the characters from the playset, Finn and Rey. And so prior to going on stage, the PR team said, you know, we've got to get Blackburn and Vignocchi with John Boyega and Daisy Ridley, so that they meet each other and they're not on stage like, you know, like at an awkward E3 event, right? Which we've seen happen all the time. And these guys are kind of like, oh, hello, it's so good to see you. Oh, hey. And instead, like, at least they've met and might be able to establish a bit of a rapport. So the day before the event, the PR team took John and I to a secret location at Disneyland, where we met up with John Boyega and Daisy Ridley. And when I sat down with Boyega, the first thing that he said was, I'm a fan of Infinity. And I'm like, oh, you know, I'd heard that. But you always expect, like, okay, that's, you know, a famous actor. Oh, I'm a big fan of your stuff. Like, oh, thanks. You know, I'm a huge fan of your stuff. But I sat down. He's like, yeah, I'm a huge fan. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, thanks. He's like, I just have a question. He's like, can I transfer my toy boxes from 2.0 via Disney ID over Cloud Save, right, to 3.0? Can I do that? And I was like, whoa, like, dude really knows. So yeah. Anyway, fun kind of backstory working with the F7 guys. They reprise their roles in the game, so that's pretty cool.
Voice acting.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
What? How many times can I say that one episode?
What?
And a slight advantage. Now I understand. After I said his name in my head 3 times, I get it. Sly, like Sly Cooper. T,
yeah.
Advantage. Once Darkwing Duck. He wants it.
Me too.
Could happen someday.
Could happen. Might happen. Almost happened.
Right.
Almost happened with the Toy Box Master Artists. But yeah, I don't have anything to announce about Darkwing Duck just yet.
Yeah. Huh.
And so this is like, by the way, this has become my life. Like as you,
Well,
now that you're like, oh hey, I get to interview you. Let's see what it's like. Any questions from the chat? And like everyone's like, when is this character coming? Who is like not even like wow, John, that was a moving story. It's like, we're like, yeah, whatever, sweaty Italian guy. Tell me when Uncle Scrooge is coming to get like, okay.
Well, and this is probably one you also can't answer, but I trying to keep it diversified for you because I imagine you get two things.
Fun.
Yeah, I'm very happy to hear it. But I'm sure you get character requests and also like, here's my idea. Like just like any Hollywood guy, people are constantly throwing scripts at him, and it's painful. I'm sure people have tons of ideas for you. I've probably done a little bit of that already. But Disney has been making games for a while. It's had peaks and valleys from what I've watched in terms of Disney's, but definitely heading on a peak these days. The way it looks from the outside looking in, anyway, it looks like you guys are on a roll. So, do you see Disney Interactive? We can't forget that you're VP of production for all of Disney Interactive, not just Infinity. Do you see expanding happening? Do you see Darkwing Duck getting his own the retro spinoff, like give Darkwing Duck to the Shovel Knight guys and just be like, make a game, here's the money? Do you see that happening, or do you see the focus remaining on this incredible platform you have, Infinity, which kind of is so many different games anyway?
So let me start off by correcting you a little bit, right? So I'm VP of production on Disney Infinity.
Oh, oops.
No, it's okay. I mean, Disney Interactive is Japan is primarily, it's like it's Japan and Infinity are kind of the two big things, but there's a lot of other different groups within Interactive. There's our social and mobile team. Our mobile teams make incredible apps. Where's My Water is a great example of an app that they had worked on that was a lot of fun. There's also the Inside Out Thought Bubbles they just put out. Another great game. There's the Club Penguin team that's still going. Club Penguin's still going as the largest kids MMO. And then there's lots of other kind of smaller groups that are working on new digital only games. I think you're going to see some more of that in the future. In terms of like IP and stuff, though, I think it really kind of just comes down to what do we think people would really enjoy and love to play. But primarily, my focus is on Infinity and expanding the Infinity platform. It's just the way that we've architected this thing. It's almost like it's its own software. I mean, it is. It's its own software platform. And when you start looking at, inside of the Star Wars play sets, those are all open world, and they also have space flight and local gravity worlds when you're inside of space. We put Toy Box Speedway in this year, which is a kart racer, and then we did an Inside Out play set, which was more of like a 2D platformer, kind of harkening back to like Rayman and Mario games. We've announced that the new Marvel play set is going to be a completely different genre of game. So the thing for me is that if we do our job right, we should actually be delivering on a whole bunch of different individual gameplay genres that are focused on these big IP that the company has, whether contemporary or legacy. And so that's kind of where my head's at with it. But, I think what you were asking is, hey, would we ever have like a standalone Darkwing Duck game? Would we ever have a standalone Tron game? Would we ever? And so I can't comment on like future plans for Disney Interactive as a division because that would not be good. But what I can talk about is when I talk about Infinity, I can talk about how if you actually take a step back and look at it, it kind of is servicing on exactly what you want, but it's all within the same ecosystem.
And all within, in terms of how you spend money, you don't necessarily have to buy $20, $60 games. You can with, some people, this is just a quick sidebar for me. I don't expect you to comment. Some people say, they should just allow me to download Iron Fist for $2 or something. Why are you forcing me to buy a thing? People say it about amiibos all the time. Why are you forcing me? They're not forcing you. They're giving you options.
Yeah.
And you get what you pay for, because this guy, he's going to be in my life until I'm, I don't throw anything away. I've still got my Atari 5200. So, again, barring he doesn't get destroyed by a pet this is going to last much longer than most things I would buy for 12.
Yeah, I mean that's and the people that are saying that are like really cynical gamers and ones that definitely don't have kids or nieces and nephews, right? That were, just younger people to play with. Because when you start saying that kind of stuff and you start saying like oh, it's on disc DLC, when I see that comment, it always makes me laugh because it's like, well, I know that for sure the person who wrote that comment doesn't understand the scope of Infinity from an actual content perspective. I mean, in comparison to the other Toys to Life games that are out there this year, we're at the lowest price point. So we're at $65 for a starter pack, which is like $5 more than, Assassin's Creed or COD, right? And it comes with 2 figures and comes with a play set that's like a, 8-hour experience for most gamers, plus then the toy box mode. And then if you want to add all those things on, you can do that, but you don't have to. And the thing is that those cynical people that are saying those types of things, when we actually conduct post-street studies and we talk to, the gamer moms and gamer dads and kids, and even some of, the core gamers, the thing that parents especially really like is, hey, I don't have to, exactly what you hit on, I don't have to go and buy a whole new game. When my kid is going around and saying, I really want something new, I only have to spend $13.99 and buy a new Infinity figure. And that Infinity figure itself is providing, because the mechanics are so diverse, these characters, is providing enough gameplay time frame that parents actually see value in the fact that it expands over time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of like, Lego bricks in that way, right? Where it's like, gee, you buy the Lego Fire Station, you buy the Lego Space Station, and you get to build those experiences, kind of like, our play sets. You get to play those experiences. But then you can take the elements of those, the bricks in the case of Lego, or the different things that you unlock in the case of our play sets, and then build your own things inside of the toy box. And so you're actually, the analogy I'm trying to make is you're making parents and kids and fans are making an investment in a platform, because those characters, all the Infinity characters, carry forward. And if you, even though our play sets like Pirates of the Caribbean from 1.0 won't play with 3.0, but when you take that play set piece and you put it down on Infinity 3, we still award you all the things you would have unlocked. So we're if you had played through Pirates of the Caribbean in 1.0. So our thinking there is we're still providing you, the player, the fan, or the mom or dad, right? The value that you would have had by progressing through and playing through that playset. So
Anyway, you bought forever ago.
Yeah, and the figures of course all carry forward. So it's just it's interesting to hear that, because whenever you read that, I'm like, yeah, what's funny? I know that this person doesn't have kids, right? Because when we do these studies and we listen to parents, they're like, no, we really appreciate the way you've architected the system.
And I'm gonna bet that a lot of those guys, if you're like, well, here's Darkwing Duck, and he unlocks a 2D platformer with art by the Shovel Knight guys or whatever, they'd shut the heck up. Because they're if they loved what it's easy to attack something that you don't feel like is catered to you anyway. Because
that's true. I guess I never thought of it that way.
Oh, it happens a whole lot. I write about a Nintendo game and people say Nintendo are the most evil guys in the world and their business practices are the devil. And I was like, what's the last Nintendo game you played? They're like,
right.
Because they don't like the product, so it's easy for them. And it's hard to, even though you've come darn close, John, you have not yet made the game that absolutely everybody's tastes ever. But you're not done yet either. Who knows? Maybe 4.0 will be the one. We're out of time, unfortunately. I could talk to you literally all day. We didn't get to my Dave Lang question about his cell phone number, but you know what? I prefer that to be a mystery. Sorry, Dave.
No, I'll tell you. So here's the funny part, right? So, and I talked about this a little bit way in the beginning. And Adam just called me on the phone during this, right? Myself, Dave, Adam. I mean, we all were in our 20s at Midway, right? And it's kind of like, it's like when they say, when you hang out with your friends from high school, you immediately go back to high school. It's when we all hang out together, we immediately revert back. And you can see this, like when we do the giant bomb stuff, you can see this happen in real time, right? When we're all separate, we sound kind of like we have our stuff together, right? But as soon as you get us three together, it goes back to Dave and Adam are ruthless with each other. They say the meanest stuff to each other, and then they pick on me, and then I get really mad. And I totally had like a Unikitty moment where I was like, I thought that this would be the funniest thing in the world, and then I tweeted his number out, and that was not the funniest thing in the world.
It's kind of funny.
He and I are still best friends. I call him the next morning because I was totally panicked about it, and he said to me, he's like, dude, you know what? At GDC, we did a thing with Ed Boon, and Dave was acting kind of foolish to Ed there. And he called me the next morning and said, oh, man, I'm really embarrassed. And I was like, whatever. No one's going to care. A year from now, people are going to laugh. And he's like, so you're calling me right now, freaked out about tweeting out my phone number. He's like, you're still my best friend. And you know what? A year from now, this thing is going to be legendary. He's like, don't even worry about it. I love you. And I was like, okay, thanks.
Aww. And he's keeping the legend alive. He's bringing it up as often as he can.
I feel like his people harass him all the time about it. And I do feel really bad. I just, total like I freaked out. So whatever. That was a bad my Unikitty moment. It was a bad judgment.
That is what a creative, empathetic, excited, passionate, well-meaning man you are. What a pleasure to meet you, John. Thank you so much for being on the show. And they can watch you're still running the Toy Box
TV.
Yeah, Toy Box TV. People, if they just got to know you on the show and they want to get more of you, they can watch that. How often? How often does that go up?
It's every week. So I think we're on episode 88 right now.
Wow. All right.
We actually integrated it into the Disney Infinity 3.0 game client. So as you're running around the Toy Box now, you can actually go to the El Capitan Theater, which is a famous movie theater that Disney owns, go inside of it and watch the latest episode of Toy Box TV right from the game. So it's kind of funny. And it's cool though, because you watch the episode and then we're like, hey, this week's challenge is this. And then, people come out of the episode and then run around the Toy Box and start building.
So people are watching your face in the. So sidebar comment, and this episode's gone over time.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Sinistar. No, I love it. It's Sinistar who's suffering. He's got to go out in space or whatever. But what if there was a Disney Infinity poll, like you kind of already did? And what if we got you to be the next figure that everyone voted in? Wouldn't that be awesome? I want it. Anyway, they can follow you on Twitter too.
Yeah,
right?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
I said people have asked me about that. I'm like, I don't know what my powers would be. I guess like sweating and swearing. Like anyway, all right, cool. Thank you. By the way, before you do the whole sign-off thing, I wanted to actually say thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak with you and to have your viewers get to spend some time and get to know me. And for anyone that's watching, if you haven't played Disney Infinity, give it a try. Myself and the entire team would love to know what you think. And if it's not for you and you're a hardcore gamer and you want that big Star Wars experience, Battlefront's a great option too. But if you're looking for something a little bit more casual, kind of fun, and seems to be received well by journalists like yourself, definitely give Infinity a try. So thank you so much, and thanks for everyone for staying here and watching.
Oh, and they can follow you on Twitter. You're at John
Vignocchi,
just like we said before.
Vignocchi.
And if they're interested in more Disney things, they can Google the word Disney, and there's no shortage of things you can discover. You can even go to Disneyland. I've been there. I didn't get. Yeah. I actually did a tour with Warren Spector about Epic Mickey.
Did you? You were part of that tour?
Yeah, I was. I was up in Walt Disney's old apartment, looking at his old grilled cheese maker. That was quite an adventure. If only we had more time. But you're welcome back on the show anytime. Like goes without saying.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. As for me, I'm at TronNauts on Twitter. You can watch the show later on YouTube. youtube.com/SupHolmesShow. You can listen to it on Libsyn and iTunes. And thank you so much. Bye.
See you, man.